You are standing at the edge of a grave, not one you dug, not one you will ever see finished. This grave is 100,000 years old, and the person lying inside it has been waiting in the dark longer than language has existed. Somewhere in a cave on a hillside, a body is being lowered into the earth. Hands that look almost like yours are doing the lowering. Rough hands, careful hands. They are not panicking. They are not fleeing. They are taking their time. You might think this is a small moment, a body, a hole, some dirt, but something enormous is happening here, and it will change what it means to be human forever. Before this moment, the dead were left, dropped where they fell, forgotten by mourning. An animal does not mourn the way you are about to learn to mourn. A body was just a body, and then it wasn't even that. It was gone, one way or another, swallowed by weather, or scavengers, or time. But something shifted. Someone looked at a person they loved, cold and still on the cave floor, and could not simply walk away. Picture her. A woman, maybe 30 years old, which back then made her old. Her joints ache from decades of walking, carrying, kneeling by fires. She has outlived children. She has outlived a partner. And now her own breathing has stopped, somewhere in the deep hours of the night, with people beside her who do not yet have a word for what they are feeling. They do not have language the way you do. No neat sentence for grief, no name for loss. But they have something else. They have hands that keep reaching toward her, even though she cannot feel them anymore. One of them, a young man, barely into adulthood, sits beside her body until the fire burns low. He does not know why he cannot leave. He only knows that leaving feels wrong, the way stepping into fire feels wrong, an instinct with no explanation attached to it yet. In the morning, someone begins to dig. Not with tools as you know them. A sharpened stick, a flat stone, bare hands scraping at packed earth, blistering, bleeding a little, and continuing anyway. It takes hours. The sun crosses the sky. Others join, taking turns, saying almost nothing, because there is nothing yet to say. Language has not caught up to this feeling. When the hole is deep enough, they lower her in. And then something happens that no one taught them to do. Someone places a stone beside her hand. Small, smooth, the kind of stone a child might have picked up on a riverbank because it felt nice against the palm. It means nothing to survival. It will not feed anyone. It will not keep anyone warm. It means something else entirely. It means, you mattered. It means, I will not let the last thing that happens to you be nothing. They cover her slowly. Not the way you'd bury something you wanted to forget. The way you'd tuck a blanket around someone sleeping, careful not to wake them, even though you know, somewhere underneath the ritual, that she will never wake again. For days afterward, the young man returns to the spot. He sits there in the evenings. He does not know it, but he is doing something that will define his entire species for the next 100,000 years. He is grieving. He is remembering. He is, in the most literal sense, making meaning out of an ending. This is the first time, as far as anyone can tell, digging through the layers of earth and time, this is one of the earliest moments a human being decided that death deserved a response, not a reaction. A response. Something considered. Something deliberate. Before this, death was an event. After this, death became a story. And once death becomes a story, everything changes. Think about what it takes to bury someone on purpose. You have to believe, even in some small, unformed way, that the person who is gone still matters. That their body, empty as it now is, still deserves care. You have to imagine a future in which you visit this spot again. You have to hold, in your mind, both the person who was and the absence that now is, and feel that the gap between them is worth marking. That is not simple. That is not automatic. That is the beginning of an entirely new kind of mind. Somewhere in these early burials, archaeologists have found more than bones. They have found ochre, a red mineral pigment, sprinkled across the remains like something between decoration and ceremony. They have found tools placed beside bodies, tools the dead would never use again, left anyway, because leaving them felt necessary. They have found shells, pierced and strung, laid across a chest that no longer rises and falls. None of these objects kept anyone alive. That is exactly the point. For the first time, humans were doing something that had no survival benefit at all, at least not in any way you could measure with hunger or safety. They were doing it because some new, aching, complicated part of the mind demanded it. You could call this the birth of the soul, if you like that word, or the birth of memory, or the birth of love, as something that survives the person it was aimed at. Whatever you call it, it did not exist before, not like this, not with hands digging in dirt and stones placed with intention. And here is the strange part. This impulse never left you. You still do it. You lay flowers on a grave you will never dig yourself. You keep a photograph of someone who cannot see you looking at it. You speak, sometimes out loud, to people who cannot hear you because some ancient part of your mind still believes that saying goodbye properly matters, even when there is no one left to receive it. That young man beside the fire, blistering his hands on a stick to dig a hole that served no practical purpose, is still inside you. He is the reason you cannot walk past a funeral without slowing down. He is the reason an empty chair at a table feels louder than an empty room. He is the reason you keep saying, even now, that someone is resting instead of simply gone. Somewhere between an animal that abandons its dead and a species that builds cathedrals to remember them, there is a hole in the ground, dug by hand, 100,000 years ago. A woman lies inside it. A stone rests near her palm, and beside the grave sits a young man who does not yet have the words for what he feels, but who understands, in his bones, that walking away is no longer an option. He stays until the stars come out. He stays because some new part of him insists on staying. And in that stillness, in that quiet refusal to simply move on, something is born that has never existed before on this planet. You, not you specifically, but the version of being human that can look at an ending and refuse to let it be meaningless. The version that turns loss into ritual, and ritual into memory, and memory into something that outlives the body itself. Every grave you have ever stood beside, every candle you have lit for someone gone, every name you have carved into stone so it would not be forgotten, traces itself back to a night beside a fire, and a hole dug by hand, and a young man who could not leave. He did not know he was starting anything. He only knew that leaving felt like a second kind of dying, one he was not ready to let happen. So he stayed. And because he stayed, so did you.